here with a fun... Hey everybody, it's Brad. I'm here to talk horror anthology comedies. So I recently saw the new Shudder exclusive film, Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. This is a sequel to 2019's Scare Package, which I absolutely loved. And I will talk about that here soon, but I'm really excited. I got to sit down and talk to the creator of the Scare Package films, Aaron B. Koontz. So we're going to jump into that interview right now, and I will see you on the other side as I talk Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. Hey everybody, I am here. I'm really excited. Like I told you at the top of this video, I'm here with Aaron B. Koontz, writer, producer, director. He's a jack of all trades, but most of all, creator of Scare Package and Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. How you doing today, Aaron?
Hey, I'm great. So thank you for having me here, Brad. Appreciate it.
So let me ask you, how did the idea for Scare Package originally come about?
It was my partner, my writing partner, Cameron Burns, was pushing us to make an anthology because we had made, as you kind of come up in the film industry, you make a lot of shorts before you get to your first feature. And we've just gotten to know all these great short filmmakers. And it was, we made our first feature, and it was really didn't go well. It wasn't the movie that I wanted it to be. My cut was never released to the public. Okay. It was a difficult process. It was also kind of a depressing film. And even though I'm proud of what we did, so I was like, how do we try this one more time, but we do it completely our way, where we have full control. It can be exactly what we want. We'll raise the money ourselves, and we just work with our friends and throw a lot of blood around. And that's where it came from. And it started with we made a couple segments, and we're kind of coming up with this idea. And, I had pushed back initially because I thought that there were too many great anthologies already out there. So we can't compete with those. But, I'm a little OCD, and I put together a spreadsheet. I was like, look, I'll investigate this idea. And I watched every anthology I could think of and could find. I took notes on all the things that I liked in different aspects. And I realized I love the comedies. And I had some rules. I was like, if we do this, it needs to have a hook. So the original idea was tropes, and every segment was a different horror trope. And I was like, that's really fun. It needs to focus on the comedy side, which I hadn't seen before. And then the wraparound needs to be its own standalone story that without the segments can still be propulsive. Because one of the things I noticed a lot was a segment would end, and then you get back to this wraparound that you didn't care about. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, give me back to the segments. I was like, okay, well, I want it to be the opposite, or at least you're excited for whatever's coming.
Yeah.
There's no, we're changing it up a little bit. So we wanted to really put effort into what that wraparound was. And that became Scare Package. And then all of a sudden, these stupid, weird ideas that we had, people laughed at, besides my group of friends that I knew. Oh. And then we were off and running.
I know the first time I saw Scare Package, because anthologies, they're like a dime a dozen anymore. I mean, there's a gazillion out there. So I was like, all right. And it was the artwork that caught me. I was like, I want to watch this. And I loved it. I love the comedy aspect of it. You and I grew up in video stores. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that whole side of it, you hooked me right there. And then with the sequel, did you always intend to make a sequel, or did it just kind of what? Hey, let's see how much further we can go?
Yeah, no, definitely did not intend to make a sequel, because again, this was just, I had no idea if anyone was going to like this. We made it as low budget as we possibly could, because I didn't think we were going to make our money back. I didn't even know what was going to happen. So the fact that, Shudder took it, and because Shudder wasn't involved, nobody was involved, all this stuff was just kind of in my head. And so when Shudder picked it up and that became a thing, and it actually was, and now there's fan art and people dress up as Rad Chad on Halloween and all this craziness. I was like, well, wait a second, what the hell have we done? And we got to lean into this more. And people just kept talking about that. And I was like, we got to make a sequel, guys, and to Shudder's credit, we had one meeting. And they were like, absolutely, we are in 100%, and I was like, wow, okay, well then let's do it. And so then it became, well, now wait, what the hell do we do now, because we just killed all our favorite people in this first movie. So what do we do, and how do we work this out? And had to come up with an entirely new idea and angle to do it.
Now, was coming up with that new idea kind of difficult, where you're like, okay, we set this in a video store, we did all this, and then, like you said, we killed off our characters? What was it very difficult to come up with? How are we going to bring people back? Like Jeremy King, did you call him up and say, hey, you want to come back to be Chad? Like,
yeah, well, first off, I don't have to call Jeremy King to want to be Chad. He calls me every day saying, I'm still Chad. What am I doing? How are you working this out? So that's going to happen regardless. But yeah, like there definitely was, I think, again, because we started out the movie, the original title of Scare Package was Tropes, right? And then it became Scare Package because I needed the title to also be a trope. So like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Chopping Mall, those kind of punny titles. So that's where we're at. There are no bigger horror tropes than in the horror sequel. And what's so great about the horror sequels is that there are no rules. You can retcon anything. You can go back and reimagine everything you saw and say, never mind, it was this the whole time. And it's like, what? And that is so absurd and silly that I just thought, and I've never seen anyone like really deal with the horror tropes and sequels, like parody that in that way. And I was like, this is what we, so a lot of the references are sequel references, the majority, and what's there. So that became a big part of it. And then also that summer when I was writing, it was the, peak pandemic. So it was definitely isolated. So I was thinking about escape room stuff and things like that. But the big thing was I was watching all the Saw sequels, getting ready for Spiral, because I wanted to see Spiral. And as I'm watching them, like, they just don't make any sense, just to be honest. Like, and I say this with love, but I'm like, what is going on? Like, they just keep doing a flashback and there's 2 people in a scene. Then the next movie, they do that same flashback and they just go wider and there's 4 people in the scene. And then all of a sudden, like, Carrie Elway shows up again. And like, I'm like, what? So there's a moment at the end of Scare Package 2 where, Graham Skipper's character, Dwight, is looking around. He's like, what is going on? Like, that was me watching like Saw 7,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, well, this is it. Like, this to me becomes this opportunity. And then it got really exciting. I was like, wait a second, this means I can write like Jigsaw style dialogue, and do it from like horror fandom, which I think sometimes, fandom gets a little off the rails and like what that could mean. So now we could do this like fandom commentary where somebody takes horror too seriously and where that goes, and which, because Jigsaw has this indignation to the way he talks about it. So like that played well. And then the real kicker for me was now I get to come up with the dumbest Saw traps ever. And I was like, well, this is it. This is our playground. We gotta do this and make it happen.
Now there was a lot of the second one that you kind of get like a scary movie spoof feel. Was that kind of like that intent? You wanted to kind of spoof all this stuff?
A little bit. I mean, look, I will say I like some of the scary movies, but I do think a lot of times they're kind of punching down on horror a little bit. And I think one of the things that's important to us was that I think you can parody something and spoof it, but you do it from a place of love. I mean, I have Friday the 13th tattoos. I have this is the stuff that I truly like admire, and I love these movies. But you can also love them and still kind of like play with it. I mean, my girlfriend and I tease each other all the time, but it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like but it comes from a place of love. And I think that's where we wanted this to come from. So, how do you spoof, but then you're not saying this is dumb. You're saying this is so ridiculous because this is what happened in horror. And how do we turn that into a narrative device? So it's not like cutaway scene of a reference that's like not moving the story forward. It was like these references are integrated in our story so that it's moving it forward. And you realize like, oh, wait, that whole thing was just a riff on this, and what this means. The film literally opens with these flashback sequences, and it's a direct riff of Friday the 13th Part 2. And if you watch the opening of Friday the 13th Part 2, we're even the same angle on a bed. She's wearing similar clothes, and she's just going, no, no. And it's the whole first Friday the 13th movie. And it goes on for like 4 minutes, So it's like, but that was important to give you some context of the film for people who maybe hadn't seen the first one or whatnot. But it so it works narratively, but it's also completely just a reference to Friday 13th Part Two. So things like that, that can make sense. That was important to try and find a way to weave that together.
And I think for me as a horror fan watching it, like there's a lot that are really direct in your face, like, oh yeah, there were this referencing this and this and this, but then there are some, like, you hear some lines or little things here and there, you're like, you pick it up and you're like, oh, that's from that. Like, my favorite part is you threw Thunder in Your Heart in a montage. Rad's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I was just like, oh, you hooked me right there.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I mean, look, think about it. That started because I needed an end song that was Rad Shad themed. And I'm like, well, what is a Rad Shad theme other than from Rad, And so, like, how can we get that? And credit to my music supervisor, Mike Turner, who was able to make that happen. It's just perfect. And we also got the Friends song from Miami Connection, So there were we could only afford like 2 needle drops. So how we did that was really, really great. But yeah, I mean, look, the hope is you're sitting with you're a diehard horror fan, you're sitting with someone who's not, and you're laughing really hard and they're laughing a little bit, but they're still enjoying the movie. And you're like, no, this is a reference to this. And they're like, what? And the next thing you know, you guys are watching Hellbound or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, now our movie just fostered the old tape trading days, again, right? I'm getting people by watching Scare Package 2 to go out and watch other horror films that I love. And I'm kind of evangelizing what we love about these movies, And that's the difference, I think, again, from like that punching down to like, we're trying to get you to go experience these things that matter to us as well. And I think that's what can hopefully make it a little more special.
And another thing you had in this one, a sequel to a segment from Scare Package, the first one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think any anthology's ever done a sequel to one of their stories before that I can think of.
No, astute of you to bring that up, because that is the whole reason why we did it, because no one had done it before, and that excites me. So that's where we wanted to go. And at one point we talked about everybody coming back and doing sequels, but just logistically it didn't really work. And then I was like, okay, well, if I have to bring one back, we're not saying one segment is better than the other. What was important was what Anthony Cousins and John Carsko did. And the Night He Came Back Again, Part 4, The Final Kill from Scare Package 1, they were already commenting on horror sequels. It was already talking about that. So I was like, you are already playing in the sandbox perfectly. So we should do, in our sequel that's about sequels, we should do a sequel to a segment that already talked about sequels. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, well, that makes perfect sense. And what's there. And then again, they also just, slayed it the first time. And I knew we had all these fun ideas, and coming up with the Night He Came Back Again movies, like in that universe, is a really fun exercise that Anthony, John, and us had kind of played with. And yeah, I mean, again, if you haven't done it before, then I want to see it.
So as we get ready to wrap up here, is what's next for you? Scare Package 3 possibly, or
yeah,
else?
I mean, well, look, we make a lot of movies. My company, Paper Street Pictures, like, I love producing for other people. And that's what makes Scare Package so special, because I get to do both. I get to have things that I'm writing and directing, but then I'm also producing these segments, within each, and developing these ideas with these super talented filmmakers. And I get to learn from what they're doing and hopefully become a better director in the process. So that's really special. And I love that. So look, I would love if enough people see it, and they watch it on Shudder. Hell, you can put it on repeat overnight. I don't care. Just give it as many views as we can, and then that betters our chances to have a Scare Package 3. So I would love that. But I'm going to continue producing for these other talented filmmakers. We can continue doing that. I love doing that. And then I do have a feature that I'm setting up right now, and that's a horror sports comedy movie. So that's something I'm trying to do. Because again, I haven't seen a horror sports comedy film, so that's why that interests me, and different angles we can go. But hopefully people get to a point where they see the Paper Street Pictures logo before a film and they know it's going to be something weird. You might not like all of them, but we're going to go for it every time. We're going to do something different and unique. And that's still what I'm trying to foster with my team, and, and continue just making movies, and playing in this weird genre space.
Well, Aaron, I want to thank you so much for talking to me, and I'm going to tell everybody go watch Scare Package 2 on Shudder. And if you haven't seen the first one, watch the first one, because they are just fun movies. And I look forward to what you guys have coming in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, December 22nd. Hopefully people dig it. And then in January we have another movie called Sorry About the Demon also coming out. And so it's been fun. Yeah, it's been fun. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thanks for talking about our weird little world of Scare Package.
Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Aaron for talking to me. It was an absolute blast to sit down with him. We probably could have geeked out for quite a while over horror movies and such. So if you haven't seen the Scare Package films, the first one in particular, you need to go watch Scare Package on Shudder. It is just a fun anthology horror comedy about a guy who, runs a video store. So there's a lot of that. Think of Randy from Scream, how he's really into a lot of this stuff. So he knows, ins and outs and quotes and characters and everything else. It kind of sets up like he said, the tropes of horror movies that you see. And then you get to the second one. And Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. So much fun. I absolutely love this movie. It was just full of Easter eggs for sequels. There was a lot of recreated scenes, as you heard in the interview. Aaron kind of explained a couple of them. And for a horror fan, you can sit down and probably laugh along to a lot of this stuff and just have a blast. I absolutely had a great time watching Scare Package 2, and I would highly recommend everyone get on Shudder and watch it. So maybe we can get a third one. Who knows? We'll see. Go watch Scare Package. Go watch Scare Package 2 on Shudder and just have a fun time with the movie. Well, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss any of these, as well as any of the other videos that I do. And I will be back soon with a new video. And remember, maybe sometime we will see you at the movies. We'll see you later.